Right, welcome everybody. Weekly meeting for Create Source Code group. First point, we have Marcin. Do we have him on a call? No. Amy, do you want to do the honors? Technical writing.
Sure. Let me pull up the agenda
Oh,
and see what I am supposed to be talking about.
I didn't want to put you on the spot, but since you're on the topic, so
okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So our OKR for this quarter is to go tackle some high profile pages and make them fit our guidelines. And he's working on the branches page. That one was easier. We knew the code owners page. I make the sign of blessing over him for doing that. And he will be working on that one off and on for probably 2 weeks. I did warn him before he took that page. So I'm doing some smaller, lower profile stuff. So probably
it's looking good, the code owners.
Yay!
There's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, it's beast. It's beast. And then Marcin also had the next one asking, so Derek is serving as the interim PM for our group. Any news on a person we can call our own?
Yeah, and I wrote a response in the doc since this is recorded. I'm not going to get into too much detail there, but I think we're getting close. We'll keep moving forward, but I'm fairly optimistic at this point.
Great to hear, Derek. Thanks for the update. And Natalia, do you want to read yours?
Oh, yes. Oh, shall I share screen? Yes, so I'm working on the issue and I'm not sure like what I'm supposed to fix there. Oops, 1 second. Yes, so it says that for this drop down, when you select users or roles for protected branch who can allowed to merge, who is allowed to merge. Yeah, it says like for the scenario when you select no one and one user, it says one role and one user. But from my point of view, this is expected behavior. So I'm a bit confused.
Yeah, this puzzled me for a bit when I was looking into it, scheduling, and my understanding of the issue, and I must admit I wasn't fully sure, so I should have double checked, is that when you select no one in the roles, that the expected behavior of the person who opened this issue was that it wouldn't count as a role. It would be no roles. But it is essentially one type of role, which is nobody is selected. And I repeat, I also want to know what's the take on everybody's on this, because I've also been puzzled a little bit by it. But that's what my understanding was.
So no one is a role. There's a role called no one.
Yeah, that's what I think, that this is technically still a role, so it should be.
So essentially, you're saying that you're not allowing anybody to merge and push to a protected branch. You're not letting anyone through, which essentially nobody. It's no role. Like there's no role selected for that. But you can also argue that you have selected a choice in the role, but you always have to make a choice because you can't unselect that, can you? Can you unselect everything? Maybe you can.
Can you select? You can't select no, like you can't select no one and something else, right? Can you select no one and maintainers?
That's a good question.
Shouldn't be able to, right?
It wouldn't be. It should be changing that choice.
I think I don't know. It seems like it's mostly about the technical side of things. Yeah, technically a role is selected, no one. But from a user perspective, the title of that column is allowed to merge. And so if you, in the dropdown, it shows you that one role is allowed to merge and that role is no one, logically for the customer looking at that, I think that that's where it doesn't really make sense. And it's because you're looking at that title of who's allowed to merge, and no one's allowed to merge, so there should be no roles selected there. So I think that that's really what it is, and I think it's a semantics discussion. I'm not sure it's a huge deal, but I can see where they're coming from.
Mhm. So I was just noticing that Michael will be back in 2 days. Michael A. So Natalia, what I would suggest is proceeding under that assumption, and then getting that to be reviewed by Michael when he gets back to make sure that we are on the same page with the UX.
All right. Yeah, makes sense.
Thanks for bringing it up. It was confusing for a while for us too. So at least we're aligned in the assumption. Cool. Thanks.
Thanks.
And yes, that's me now. So yeah, I wanted to announce a bit of a team update. I've already dropped the message on Slack as well. So essentially, Dennis that was on loan to the AI framework team. He's becoming permanent there. He's going to be staying there. They liked him so much they didn't let him leave, I guess. But I want to take the opportunity to thank him for the contributions and help that he did while he was here. And then also to fill in his vacant seat, we have Paulina joining our team as a front-end engineer. And please make her feel welcome. Feel free to reach out to her and making her feel welcome. So the plan to onboard her she'll be onboarding during 16.5. I always get the numbers wrong. 15 was a while ago. 16.5. She'll be onboarding with like some small work to get acquainted with the code bases, with the apps we have, the architecture, all this stuff. I do plan to have her fully capable of handling the deliverables in 16.6. So Derek, the point of we'll have enlarged capacity for front end in 16.6 for planning deliverables. That's kind of like just the gist of it. Maybe we'll have a PM by then. Who knows?
I hope so.
All right. All right. So that's the update. Any questions? Is that clear? For the party hat. Oh, nice. Nice reaction shot.
Yeah, that's great. And I noticed she's also in European time zone, which
Yeah.
Which works also great.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It's good.
Can we if we just go back, I noticed Jerry put a comment in the chat about the previous topic. Jerry, do you want to articulate that?
Please, Jerry. Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's there.
Yeah, sure. It's just about the roles thing. Maybe it's misleading that it's called roles when there's not quite a role called no one. It's more like the access level is for no one rather than it being a role. I think it's useful that it actually says something is selected, like one right now it's role, but it's like indicating that there is some selected option. So that's just my thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, I agree. It should indicate something, but the problem is that the question is like, if you select a user and the role no one, is the user still having access to the selected user is still having access to the
I think the tricky part is
rights.
we're using this role called no one to have an access level of none.
Mhm.
Right. We're kind of misusing the role in a way, but might be a lot to change that.
Yeah, you're right. I think to get to that, we would have to, or to solve this to make it more clear, we're probably going to need to split that out and have reformulate a bit of that drop-down options, which is far more deeper
Okay.
involvement, which we can still bring it up in the issue, Jerry, for Michael to consider, but potentially we can iterate here and take care of that particular like weird up UI stuff and iterate towards something a bit more clear, which we all agree it needs. So can you please have comment in the issue, Jerry? And then we go
Great
from there.
idea. Yep. Thanks, Jerry.
And thanks for bringing us back, Sean.
No worries.
Moving on to my next announcement, so to speak. I've talked to some of you already independently about this, but I want to make sure that we cover it here in this call. So we've been talking a lot about this over the last couple of years. And we're starting a collective initiative to craft an architecture design blueprint around the topic of the new generation of diffs at GitLab. And this is it's diffs. It's not commits. It's not merge requests. It's diffs. The point is we aim to have the back end, the front end of both source code and code review get together, craft a proposal for a new architecture of diffs that can be reused over on the merge request page, reused on the repository commits page, on the compare page in our part of the source code. So source code has two types of pages where we show diffs, the compare and the repository commit. The code review, we have one, but these three scenarios, they all have differences amongst them, but they have a lot of overlap. Right now, there's a separation of code bases. Our own is pretty stale and legacy. Code review has two places. When you're creating a new merge request, we show a little preview at the bottom. That is also legacy code. It's not using the same front end flashy version that we have on the merge request page. So we aim to unify all of these in a way that it's both performant for the user. So a lot of focus on perceived performance, but also maintainable. So we want to make sure that everybody can work with this in the future, but we want to hear proposals and want to consider things we want to try. We might have to build a couple of POCs to validate. And this is going to be a goal for our quarter. So we're going to have a couple of months to take care of this proposal. The idea is that by the end of this quarter, we'll have a document that guides the development in the future quarter or quarters, depending on how long we'll get to be there. This isn't something with a specific deadline or somebody breathing down our neck. It's just something that everyone in the group has felt as a necessity over the last years, so to speak. In the merge request side of things, for example, we felt like we've taken the current implementation as far as we can. We're kind of trimming off the edges on performance, making some improvements, but the fundamental problem is the architecture we have. We have too many view components on the front end, a very complex view with Vuex application that is not performing very well. So we want to I don't want to say trash it. We definitely want to still be able to reuse a lot of components, like the markdown, all that stuff needs to be reused, but just rethink a little bit how we're generating this. And everybody's ideas are welcome. We were chatting with Sean. Sean suggested us getting some DRIs in place for each one of the disciplines and in one of the groups. We're definitely going to have that. So essentially right now, I just wanted to give you a hint that this is starting soon. We'll be announcing through our Slack channel when we start having discussions about this, and our idea to start having sync discussions about this, but also driving asynchronous discussions on an issue or an epic or something like that to generate this document. The document is the thing that will guide us. That will be the outcome of this effort. There's an issue already for kicking this off that Phil Hughes from Code Review is taking care of. There's some detail there of what we're trying to accomplish, but we definitely will flesh this out even further with everyone's help. And that's kind of it. Does anybody has any questions on that?
So is there issue where you can, for example, see the current state of ideas?
So not yet. We thought about that. We have a couple of POCs we built with Code Review from our side. The idea that we have right now is we don't want to mix the experiments we had in Code Review and start from there. We want to hear everyone's thoughts on, because for example, the Code Review struggles aren't the same that the source code ones are. So what we're going to start discussing is exactly the principles of the project. What are the goals? We're also going to be having a bit of a discussion about the priorities. What if we get to a conflict, like somebody poses a proposal up that is opposed to another one, how do we find the better one? And the idea is to have some sort of priority of constituents where the W3C uses something similar for the HTML spec, where you have users over authors, over implementers, over browser creators, over theoretical purity. So users come first after all these, right? If anything comes in conflict between these concepts, we'll have an easy way to understand what's the choice in front of us, right? So we don't know exactly what this is going to look like So that's why there is no issue with a proposal, Natalia. It's just like, we know we need this. We know we're going to have discussions about proposals and approaches. And for example, we need to understand fully how the diffs come to the front end from the back end, how they come from Giddily to Rails, and how we're going to cache them. We're reevaluating everything. We're not just taking what we have and starting just nibbing at the front end. We want to make sure that we stop and think about the whole thing, because there's probably going to be some technological innovation that we're going to have to do. We have some crazy ideas on how we should change the way we attach things, comments to merge request objects, which now can be also employed to the diffs on the commits. And we're talking about, why can't I comment on a file name, right? Right now we comment on lines. That's what we have today. We've also entertained the idea that, and this is for you, Derek, our idea of doing this refactor is that we might be able to pull off some nifty features out of this, not just get to the same place we're in. One of the ideas we have is, if we can have some understanding of the code, we could potentially leave comments on code objects, regardless of which line they're in. If you have additions on the bottom, on the top lines, we can still leave the comment attached to the object if the object isn't changed. So this is logic that we're going to need to figure out how we would implement it in our current architecture. And of course, some of the things might be nice to have for future implementations, but at least we'll have that discussion from the ground up, which, if we change the system on how we attach things with sort of an address, like a URI that will allow us to attach things to the objects, would help us extend this even further in the future without having to implement it all in the first version. So I'm excited about the possibilities that this brings. We definitely feel like we've been talking a lot about this over the past years. And Derek, you weren't here, but we used to have performance roundtables with everybody getting together and discussing things every week. And there was a lot of talk and a lot of experimentations. Now we wanted to get to the bottom of, let's write a draft spec. Let's draft an architecture that we can actually then follow for implementation, rather than just trying ad hoc experimentations on the side.
That sounds great to me. I think that I can already think of some things that would be that could enable. So absolutely, awesome. I'm supportive.
Cool. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Kai from Code Review has already been briefed, so he's also supportive. So I appreciate the help from product on this side. I as an engineering manager, one of the biggest pleasures I have is working with product people that understand performance is a feature. So 100% thankful for that support. So that's it. That's the update. Any other points? Any other questions?
Yeah, that's so awesome, Andre. I'm really glad we're taking this step. Whatever we can do in backend to support, let us know. And as you're saying, it goes all the way through to Giddily, and yeah, let's make it faster, cleaner, and better.
We couldn't do this without you. All right, take care. That's perfect, Sean. Thanks. We'll definitely include you all, because it takes a village. Cool. Anything else? All right. This was fun. Great to see everybody. All right.